has the lowest approval ratings of any president since Jimmy Carter, looks to him like a guaranteed loser in this upcoming election. Geopolitically, Biden looks more than inept and maladroit than ever, and that's saying something. Biden has his CIA director in Paris now, talking with top spies from Mossad, Egypt, and Qatar. Reportedly, they're talking about a ceasefire in Gaza. That's right, the CIA director is in Paris talking to other spies about a ceasefire. The Daily Mail reports those talks are about a ceasefire, and CBS News claims the talks, though, are really about the hostages. CBS usually is much closer to Biden, and the Daily Mail usually is much closer to the real story. And why are we now having summits with our director of the CIA leading the confab? This should have, I would think, have been handled by the State Department. That's what they're for, not the CIA. Or if not state, then it should be handled by the White House. Or maybe, sometimes it's just what it looks like. Maybe the CIA is now openly running the U.S. government and has no reason now to hide the fact. Now that's a scary thought. Biden getting a little election help from his friends, Senators Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, John Cornyn, rhinos all, and neocons to boot, all of whom are urging Joe Biden to order a severe retaliatory strike against Iran. But oddly, none of the Senate hawks are asking the White House the first question, which is, why are our troops positioned there in the first place? What are they doing? Why can't the Pentagon assure forced security for our service members? And here's what President Biden was promising just under 3 weeks ago.
I've already delivered the message to Iran. They know not to do anything. Hang on 1 second.
Will you continue bombing the Houthis if the attacks don't stop, sir?
Say that again?
Will you continue bombing the Houthis if the attacks don't stop? Will you continue with the strikes, sir?
We will make sure that we respond to the Houthis as they continue this outrageous behavior, along with our allies.
3 American soldiers killed in a drone attack on a U.S. outpost in northeastern Jordan. 8 critically injured, almost 40 others wounded in that attack. There have been an estimated 150 attacks on our troops in Iraq, Syria, and Jordan since the Hamas massacre on October 7th. Hundreds of our troops wounded in those attacks, and the Biden White House has ordered retaliatory strikes on the Iranian-backed militias, but none of those attacks has done anything to even slow the attacks. The Biden White House won't even say why our troops are stationed in the region. And here at home, the border is blowing up in Mitch McConnell's face and his lackey James Lankford, the rhino tool for the chamber and the business roundtable. Over the weekend, the Oklahoma State Republican Party approved a condemnation and censure of James Lankford. The Republican senator has been accused by his colleagues of playing fast and loose with Democrats trying to cook up a rotten border deal, and rotten is the right word. The Oklahoma Republican Party slamming Lankford for working with Democrat Senator Chuck Schumer on a proposal that would allow 5,000 illegal immigrants a day to enter the United States. That would be just about 2 million a year, for crying out loud. The McConnell Rhino wing of the Republican Party is now officially out of its mind. And that, of course, is insane. Remember that Barack Obama's DHS secretary said in 2019 that 1,000 apprehensions at the border would be a crisis. And now Democrats and many Republicans have decided the number should be 5,000 as perfectly acceptable now. Put simply, this deal would codify mass illegal immigration in perpetuity, I guess. And they would call that, of course, a win-win. Not for you, not for me, but for the Marxist Dems and the Democrat Party. With a new slate of future voters, Republicans get cheap labor for their corporate donors, and bipartisan is just another word for betrayed. Democrat Senator Chris Murphy saying that we might soon see the text of just such an agreement. It's interesting. These senators are talking about a deal they haven't even seen the text for. They have no idea what they're talking about, but talk they are. That is, unless Donald Trump can convince Republicans to avoid an America Last compromise between the rhinos and the Democrats. Murphy even accused President Trump of wanting to preserve chaos at the border, end quote. Talk about gaslighting. See for yourself.
Do you have a deal?
Well, we do have a bipartisan deal. We're finishing the text right now. And the question is whether Republicans are going to listen to Donald Trump, who wants to preserve chaos at the border because he thinks that it's a winning political issue for him, or whether we are going to pass legislation which would be the biggest bipartisan reform of our border and immigration laws in 40 years and would give the President of the United States, whether that president is a Republican or a Democrat, new important power to be able to better manage the flow of people across the border. We are sort of finalizing the last pieces of text right now. This bill could be ready to be on the floor of the United States Senate next week, but it won't be if Republicans decide that they want to keep this issue unsettled for political purposes.
You know, Republican senators like McConnell and Langford are so dishonest and so utterly bereft of principle. What they're asking the American people to just sort of bite our lips and watch as they lie through their teeth. They're talking about amnesty for millions and millions of illegal immigrants that have already been brought into the country in the past 3 years under Joe Biden. And they want to bring in 2 million more illegal immigrants every year. This is a president who, frankly, hasn't a single thought in his mind about the interest of the United States, a Republican Party, the rhinos of which could care less about anything in the national interest or in the interest of American citizens. Langford, by the way, he should be far more than censured. He should be, without any doubt whatsoever, utterly condemned by the Republican Party, I think thrown out of it, and maybe take McConnell and a few of the other rhinos with them. The president already has all the power he needs. Biden could solve this crisis at the border with a snap of his fingers. The laws are on the books. All he has to do is reverse all of the policies of the past 3 years, and everything will be just fine. Go back to the Trump border. Stop it now. And Biden is lying through his teeth when he says he has to have more tools at his disposal. All he has to do is follow the law and fulfill his duty under the Constitution. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis explained why this is such a farcical argument in this video posted to X. Watch.
This border deal is a farce. Joe Biden already has the authority to shut the border down. He could declare it a national emergency. He could stop the invasion cold if he wanted to. He does not want to. He wants to let people in, and we know that there are people from all over the world that have come in illegally. We know from hostile countries. We know it's weakened the United States. It's also destroying this nation's sovereignty. Now, this so-called deal purports to give him tools so that he could actually close the border. The reality is it's green lighting up to 5,000 illegals every single day. That's 1.8 million plus over the course of a year, which they're codifying into law as saying that's an appropriate number of illegal entries. I think the appropriate number of illegal entries is 0.
Good for Governor DeSantis, telling it like it is. Perhaps too late, but we're delighted to hear straight talk at any time. Biden could tomorrow impose restrictions or outright suspension of entry of the illegal immigrants with just simply a simple statement to his chief of staff. The Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, by the way, could create additional limitations and restrictions on the so-called asylum process. But believe me, this isn't about process. None of this would require new legislation, new tools, so-called. And the missing ingredient in all of this is the will and good faith. Unfortunately, the Democrats and certainly the Biden regime have none of either in their character. They don't care about America. They don't even care when terrorists slip through the cracks, which recently happened in California. The Daily Caller News Foundation reporting a member of a Somali terrorist group was caught and released near San Ysidro, California, last spring. And immigration agents apprehended the individual this month after learning about his terrorist background, which probably should have happened before they let him into America, but at least they caught him. How many more of these folks are running around undetected? 10 to 12 million people coming into this country unvetted since Joe Biden took over the White House. It's a scary thought indeed. This nightmare is the reality of Biden's America, a place right now without borders or security, and all by design. Joining us now is Ben Bergquam. He is the host of Law and Border on Real America's Voice News and founder of Frontline America. Ben, great to have you with us. Let me ask you this. You're on the front line, so let me ask you about the nation's capital. Can you believe that Senator Langford, a Republican, a former minister, could actually, with a straight face, say that the proposal from the Biden administration and Chuck Schumer makes any kind of sense?
No, it's not just Governor DeSantis said it's a joke. It's not even just a joke. It's a slap in the face to the American people and to our intelligence. They have allowed an invasion on our southern border of over 10 million illegals. That's known and unknown gotaways, and it could even be as high as 15 million or more. They have allowed that. And just to give you an idea, I get these every time I go down to the border. I call them souvenirs, but they're just documents showing that was from China. This is from India, passport from India. This is from Guinea, Africa, from Senegal. And just look at this guy's face. They're dumping their IDs. They're ripping them up when they come across the border. And it's because they know that we don't have the way to track them down. They can make up any story they want. They can create any false name they want. They can create any backstory they want. And unless they show up on Interpol or some sort of terror watch list, we let them in. And as you've even said, we even let the ones in that are on these terror watch lists, and we somehow miss them through this. This is not a joke. It is a disgrace, and it's the death of our country if we allow it. And as you mentioned to Senator Langford, a Republican putting his name on a bill that would allow, that would welcome 5,000 illegals per day, 150,000 per month, 1.8 million per year. Any Republican that signs on to that needs to be out of office. This is the death of our country. But the moral of the story and the reality of the story is they don't even care about this. This is all purely political. If Joe Biden or Secretary Marcus or any of these leftists wanted to fix this problem, they could have done it over the last 3 years. The only reason they're pretending to care and pretending to do anything now is because the election is coming up. And for them to blame Republicans and to say, well, we have a plan now, and if the Republicans don't go along with it, well, it's their fault. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting.
It is disgusting, and all the more. I guess I'm all the more pleased to see that a state party of the Republican Party has actually stood up and called a senator out for the rhino.
Yes.
The rhino that he is. I can think of a number of other adjectives to attach to that. But Langford is an outright phony. At least Schumer, you know what he is. And McConnell, he's nothing more than he's a tripwire for the PLA, for crying out loud. We have a group of people within the Republican Party that I think are just as dangerous as they can be on the border and sovereignty. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that's why we're actually at this event with Turning Point USA here in Las Vegas. It's the RNC. It's called the RNC Restoring National Confidence, and it's the prelude to the actual RNC event that's going to be taking place here later this week. And that's what this is about. We, as you just said, it's perfect. You're exactly right. I don't mind the Democrats, the enemies of our country, the leftists, communists, whatever you want to call them. They're attacked because at least they're stabbing us in the front. It's the people that pretend to be on our side that are stabbing us in the back. And we spend more of our time fighting guys like Senator Langford than we do on fighting the real enemy, the communist, Marxist, jihadists that are running our government right now. And if we can't even do that, you look at the left, they may disagree on issues, but at least they circle the wagons behind issues. On our side, you've got these establishment elites that are comfortable losing. And as long as they continue to get invited to the right parties and the right social clubs, those are the guys and gals that have to go. And it's time that the grassroots, the base of the party stands up and says, no more. We're not going to accept this. Any vote on any of this, if we don't shut down the border, they should shut down the government. And any Republican that doesn't stand up for that needs to be out of office, frankly.
Ben Bergquam, as always, great to have you with us. Thanks. And, this is a time to keep the fire under the feet of the RNC in particular. And I know you and the folks at Turning Point will take care of just that. Thanks so much, Ben Bergquam. Coming up next here, Democrat lawfare against Donald Trump continues. It's now in its 9th year of political persecution. What the E. Jean Carroll defamation verdict means and more when we continue. Please stay with us.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and I'm here to tell you about my new product from MyPillow, towels that actually work. Watch this absorbency test. Here's another towel that we randomly went out and bought. Here's one of my towels with the nice design. I don't know if you can see this, but you could line a swimming pool with this. I mean, this is crazy. Get rid of it. Towels that actually work. What a concept. I'm interrupting this commercial to let you know you can get our 6-piece My Towels, regular $69.98, now only $29.98. Or you can save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels, made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Also, we have bath sheets, bath towels, washcloths, hand towels, and so much more. And the best part, with your promo code, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all My Towels. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
Welcome back. Are people allowed to defend themselves from awful accusations anymore? Not in New York, it seems. There, a jury decided that President Trump must pay an additional $83 million to E. Jean Carroll for defamation. Carroll was awarded $5 million last year over sexual abuse allegations. Trump has adamantly denied wrongdoing and called the verdict a disgrace. But because Trump refused to be silent in the face of Carroll's accusations, the former president now owes her nearly $100 million in damages. Carroll called the outcome inspiring, as she put it. I would think so. Inspiring would be a good word. On CBS Morning's Watch, here she is.
E. Jean Carroll, take us to the moment you hear the verdict, and it's $83.3 million. What goes through your head when you hear that number?
Who can conceive of $83 million?
Yeah.
I am a mere human. I thought asking for $24 million was way over the top. That scared me to death. To have the jury, first of all, to see the 4 women. This was 9 people on the jury, 7 men, only 2 women, and the person who was in charge of it was a woman. She stood up as soon as we saw it was a woman standing up. We were sort of filled with hope. And Robbie,
same thing that happened last time too. There was
we were holding hands and squeezing like this, and Robbie's writing what the jury's saying with his hand. She couldn't add it up.
It took them 3 hours, which is pretty quick considering all that they had to listen to. 3 hours for them to come back with that number. Do you think they're trying to send a message? And if so, what do you think that message is a better question?
I think they said enough.
Can you believe somebody asked her what the message was? $83 million. That's hard to watch. Carroll wasn't the underdog in this judicial proceeding in New York. Her crusade against President Trump was backed by Democrat mega donor Reid Hoffman. The system, especially in New York, is stacked solidly against President Trump. The truth is that the Carroll verdict is part of the broad effort by the Marxist Dems to destroy President Trump before he can win re-election to the presidency. At least that's how Democrats are treating it, and as harsh as as that $83 million that verdict seems, Americans better buckle up because it appears that lawfare is just getting started. Special counsel Jack Smith's election trial against Trump is set to begin on March 4th. It's very unlikely that it will happen on that date because of the various proceedings in that trial. It would be, if it did happen, the day before Super Tuesday. Democrats aren't even trying to pretend they're running that they're not running an inquisition anymore. With us now to talk about all of this and more is constitutional law attorney Jared Roberts. Jared, great to have you back with us here on Lou Dobbs Tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You bet. And let me start with this: the E. Jean Carroll verdict and the whole proceeding. I mean, as I understand it, no witnesses, no evidence. She messed up the dates and the season and the places where this occurred. She couldn't describe the dressing room that the incident allegedly happened in. I mean, how in the world did we get here?
The decision is absolutely a black eye for our judicial system, and it's really just another example of, and I was on a few weeks ago and talked about this with you, Lou, the weaponization of our judicial system by the Democrats. You touched on it, that this lawsuit was funded by Democrat mega donors, and really they had no interest in getting to the truth here. This case, along with all the other cases, is about because they know they can't beat Donald Trump at the ballot. So they're trying to wear him down in the courtroom. They're trying to beat him in the courtroom. And they took him to one of the most liberal jurisdictions in the entire country where anyone affiliated with Donald Trump, especially not Donald Trump himself, cannot get a fair trial. And at this point, we're on to the Second Circuit, and hopefully we'll get a fair panel there.
The Second Circuit appeal, are you hopeful?
I am hopeful just because many of the legal conclusions that Judge Kaplan made in President Trump's proceedings were legal decisions that can be renewed de novo. So the Second Circuit Court of Appeals will come into this with a fresh set of eyes. There'll be a 3-judge panel. So instead of just one left-wing Bill Clinton appointed judge, we will see 3 different judges, some of whom may have been appointed by President Trump himself. He's more likely to get a fair shot here. And I think the Second Circuit will correct a lot of the errors that the trial court judge did. I mean, the trial court did not allow a lot of exculpatory evidence into the record. It didn't allow the president to discuss who was funding Carroll's lawsuit, the fact that there was no DNA connecting the president to any of this, and the president continues to deny and did not do anything wrong in this case. And I think there's a lot of hope that the Second Circuit will correct at least some of these wrongs.
I can't understand why any court would not correct all of the wrongs. I know that having many of them corrected is a win, but this is some case that we're talking about here. But you could say that of every case that's being brought against President Trump. This is a man who's now a president who's lost attorney-client privilege. He's lost executive privilege. He has watched 2 of his assistants be found in contempt of Congress and ordered to prison. I mean, this is rampant lawlessness on the part of our judiciary and our Department of Justice and district attorneys in 2 jurisdictions, a state attorney general in the case of New York. I mean, it's wholesale inquisition. We call it lawfare. Lawfare sounds like a nice, gentle term until you realize that things are burning before your very eyes.
No, absolutely. And I think we talked about a few weeks ago when I was on that the judiciary has truly become weaponized by the left. And my solution has been from the beginning that we need to get more people on the right involved in the legal field. That it all starts with encouraging younger conservatives to attend law school, to go through training, to become on the federal bench one day. And there are great programs out there that are starting to do this. We've worked a lot with America First Legal in the past, and they have a program right now to train future lawyers for the federal bench. And so it all just starts that we need to get back to the grassroots and really encourage conservatives to go to law school, because right now our judicial system is being weaponized, and Democrat appointed judges seem to have no interest in stopping it, and in a lot of times are encouraging it.
Yeah. So explain, if you will, Jared, why we're watching what looks like a protection racket to me in the legal department, the legal industry of this country. I mean, we're talking about millions and millions and millions of dollars to get caught up in lawfare. They're destroying people's lives. They're destroying their assets, and the judges are corrupt. The attorneys are corrupt. We have a wholesale corruption of our judicial system. And you talked about sending a few kids to law school. That isn't going to turn it around, because they're producing left-wing lawyers by the thousands in this country. And there is no incentive whatsoever right now that I can see to pull back. It's going to take, I don't know what it's going to take to get a fair trial in this country. But if you're MAGA, America First, conservative, or independent, you're not in the club, and good luck, buddy. I mean, those are the facts, right?
In a lot of jurisdictions, that is the case. I still hold out hope for the judiciary as a whole. I think that, I think there's a lot of great jurisdictions out there. There's a lot of great judges out there, especially in the Middle District of Florida, the Northern District of Texas. There are a lot of great jurisdictions, and President Trump made...
I'm sorry, Jared, I have to laugh when you say that. You've got to be very lucky with the jurisdiction that you're in, whether it be Texas or Florida, and only certain parts of those two red states, to get a fair trial. I mean, the legal profession is endorsing lawfare, but through their acquiescence, through their silence and refusal to do this. We're talking about generation-long approach to solving it. The disaster, the devastation that will befall millions of Americans in that time is just, I mean, I don't understand why somebody isn't with some conscience, some kind of soul, saying this can't happen in America, let alone take over America.
No, and I fully agree with you, Lou. And right now, things definitely do seem dark. At the end of the day, we do have a favorable Supreme Court. While the Texas decision may not have gone our way, a lot of past decisions.
I'm sorry to laugh, Jared. I mean,
No,
5-4.
I get it.
I mean, Amy Coney Barrett, for crying out loud, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, they don't even look at the Constitution, the Invasion Clause, the 10th Amendment, nor did they look at the interest in terms of national security and a crisis in sovereignty. These are morons that we're watching in the High Court of the land. They are also abjectly intimidated, coerced, or under some spell that has nothing to do with the law. You get the last word here.
I would just say that I'm with you. I'm frustrated too, but I would just encourage the American people to hold out hope. If we could get a favorable Congress that could lead to impeachment proceedings for some of these judges that have abandoned their duty to the American people. Once we get President Trump back in office, we'll continue to put conservative judges on the bench who will uphold the law. I think the fix is coming sooner than people realize. We just need to re-elect President Trump and get him in the White House in 2025.
It'd be a great start, wouldn't it? Jared,
Absolutely.
Thanks for being with us here. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Lou.
Thank you. And now to that important electronic voting machine case that is underway in Atlanta, Georgia, the federal court case. The case is called Curling versus Raffensperger. Raffensperger, of course, the Secretary of State in the state of Georgia. It is all about whether or not those voting machines, electronic voting machines, can be hacked, if they can be manipulated in any way, and whether or not the voters of Georgia should have any confidence in them in upcoming elections. We're turning now to reporter Amber Connor, who is following the trial closely and reporting for us. And Amber, great to have you back with us. And let's start with your assessment of what happened today.
Yes, today was an interesting day. The state's defense called Juan Gilbert. He has a PhD in computer science and is an expert in human-centered computing. He was given an award by President Obama and President Biden for securing the vote and protecting democracy. But what ended up happening is the state's defense wasn't really prepared for the plaintiff's counsel cross-examination of Juan Gilbert, because he ended up addressing some of the concerns that many have had about these BMDs, ballot marking devices.
And in that instance, you're talking about basically this blew up in the faces of the state?
Yes. In fact, at one point, it was interesting that when he was being cross-examined by the plaintiff's counsel, he stated, "You can check your bank account, but not your vote," which kind of caught us off guard. Whoa. And I thought it was quite humorous because they were asking about risk limiting audits. And once you vote, are you able to go back as a voter, and would they be able to pull up what your intended vote was in the audit? And there was no way to find that throughout the computing part, only by the ballot, which is what has been one of the arguments that the plaintiffs have made. And then when he was asked by the plaintiff's counsel if he agreed that there was no known way to secure a digital ballot, he said he agreed, which again was something that if I were part of the state's defense, I would not have wanted. But it looks like Juan Gilbert he took his oath seriously. And when he was speaking to these particular questions, he answered them honestly, and that's what came back. And he answered one other question that threw everyone for a loop, and it was if it was true that a risk limiting audit cannot audit what the BMD, the ballot marking device, displayed to the voter. He stated that was true as well. So some of these arguments that the plaintiff's counsel has been making all along, he confirmed it. And I think that was probably difficult for the state's defense to, handle at the time. When they cross-examined him, they tried to get him to narrow down on what he was saying, but essentially he couldn't go back on those statements because they are true statements.
And what was the reaction in the courtroom? Did you see any reaction at all from Judge Totenberg?
She's very good about not showing or displaying any emotion when it comes to her feelings on something. Right. She did have him reiterate so she could make sure she understood what he was actually saying. And he did reiterate by speaking about the risk limiting audit and the issue that they were cross-examining him about. But it seems as though there was a lot of frustration from the state's defense because, sometimes you call someone up to testify and you assume that everything is going to go in your favor. And sometimes by the questions that they're asked, that can flop. And especially if you have a good plaintiff's counsel that knows how to frame their question, that has someone have to answer accordingly.
So we've got just maybe a minute left. Amber, is it your judgment here that the plaintiff expert witnesses are agreeing with the defense expert witnesses and that both sides here are in agreement that there are vulnerabilities, that the machines can be hacked, they can be manipulated. Are they in agreement on that, in point of fact?
It seems as though, even though I believe the state's defense are going to be trying to point to the vulnerabilities with hand-marked paper ballots, which they tried to do today, but it was hard for them to get that into evidence because it's not something that this case is centered upon. It's actually centered upon ballot marking devices, and the same way they wouldn't allow voter GAs Ricardo Davis to speak to some of these issues with ballot stuffing and other ballot issues. The judge is not going to allow the state to get very far in bringing up particular evidence that had to do with other ways that our voting systems are vulnerable. So they kind of, dug themselves in a hole with that.
So they're in a, you see Raffensperger and the state in a hole. How many more days do they have to dig themselves out of this hole?
Well, tomorrow, Marilyn Marks comes on the stand, and she's one of the plaintiffs, and she's one of the ones who brought the case forward with Curling and with the Coalition for Good Governance. So she was going to go on the stand today, but because the state's defense wants to keep her up there for a good amount of time, and they're going to have to cross-examine, they're going to do that tomorrow. So tomorrow should be a big day because this is one of the main plaintiffs. So it should be very spicy and interesting, that's for sure.
Well, we look forward to talking with you tomorrow evening. We thank you for being with us today and recounting much of what happened in that court. A surprising day indeed. Amber Connor, we appreciate you so much and look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you. Coming up next, if we don't have secure elections, we don't have a country. The ruling class, that's who they are. The oligarchs, corporate America's leaders, well, they're disinterested in election integrity. We take that up when we continue on Lou Dobbs Tonight. Stay with us.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and I'm here to tell you about my new product from MyPillow. Towels that actually work. Watch this absorbency test. Here's another towel that we randomly went out and bought. Here's one of my towels with the nice design. I don't know if you can see this, but you could line a swimming pool with this. I mean, this is crazy. Get rid of it. Towels that actually work. What a concept. I'm interrupting this commercial to let you know you can get our 6-piece My Towels, regular $69.98, now only $29.98. Or you can save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels, made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Also, we have bath sheets, bath towels, washcloths, hand towels, and so much more. And the best part, with your promo code, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all My Towels. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
Welcome back. There's a major election integrity case that is underway now in the state of Georgia, in Atlanta, and it could have a major impact on this November's presidential election. And you probably haven't heard or seen a lot about it in the corporate media. That's because these outlets, along with their elite masters in Washington, D.C. and in boardrooms around the country, are determined to keep these developments from the public. The case involves an organization called the Coalition for Good Governance, an election integrity nonprofit. The organization sued the state of Georgia, get ready for this, back in 2017, and trying to force that state to abandon the use of electronic voting machines and instead use pen and paper ballots. Expert cybersecurity witnesses in this case have testified earlier this month that there were, quote, extreme risks in Georgia's voting procedures. The state, however, continues to deny it, and they continue to have a lot of explaining to do. What's notable about this is it's a bench trial, which means the judge in the case, Obama appointee Amy Totenberg, is in fact the judge and the jury. She will decide the case in its entirety. And according to the Atlantic Civic Circle, Totenberg could issue a ruling that would prohibit Georgia from using voting machines this fall. Despite the fact that she was appointed by a Democrat president, Bill Clinton, Judge Totenberg has appeared to be mostly open-minded on the issue of election integrity. During earlier proceedings in this case back in 2019, she ruled that Georgia needed to abandon touchscreen voting machines provided by a company called Diebold Election Systems. The Coalition for Good Governance finally rested their case this week as the trial reached its halfway point. Well, what's next? We'll find out. And now here is Mike Lindell. He is in Las Vegas, Nevada, attending a Turning Point USA event. Mike, great to have you with us here tonight. What are you doing in Vegas?
Well, we have my whole team here for the Lindell plan, and they invited us to speak to all the RNC, any of the members that wanted to come. Remember, this is 2 days before the big RNC convention here, and so right. we all took the stage today, and it was amazing. The feedback we're getting is we want the RNC to embrace us and the GOP and not block us when we go county by county, Lou, and implement this plan that we've been doing. We've come too far to be blocked by our own party.
Right, and it's also very clear that the country is very concerned about electoral integrity, and you and I and just about everyone who's concerned about electoral integrity is watching the case Raffensperger down in the Secretary of State, a case brought by Curling versus Raffensperger, and extraordinary developments last week. Alex Halderman, the professor from the University of Michigan, actually manipulating the machine and doing so with a Bic pen in a matter of just seconds, throwing to the wind all of the claims that there was no way these machines were vulnerable, that they could be rigged, and he did it in 5 or 6 seconds. And right. Guess what? The national media isn't reporting a moment of it.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Lou, and that's why that's why this event here is so important, because we are going to go county by county. We're going to go to get rid of these machines and go to paper ballots and county. We've already got over 200 committed to go to paper ballots by. You're not going to hear this on the news either. By the 2024 election, I want to get them all, and we've got great things going on in New Hampshire that goes to a vote in a couple of weeks to get rid of them all there. But our plan, right? The media doesn't talk about that great case in Georgia. Another thing, Lou, the judge said, we're not conspiracy theory people if we question the machines. It's like, what a concept. You question our most critical infrastructure, which is our election. So, and great rulings coming out there, great things that's been said. And we hope that Georgia, that this judge makes the right ruling and says, hey, these machines are illegal. They got to go. And we've also got great things going on. We have a big case. This is breaking news on your show here, by the way. In Arizona, everyone goes, well, Mike, whatever happened to your case in Arizona to coming up on 2 years now, that to get rid of the machines there in Arizona. I'm sorry, it's Arizona. And well, that's been appealed and appealed. Now it's going to I believe it's in a week, it's going to go to the Supreme Court for them they need to embrace this. And this will be, I think it'll be historical. And this is going to be, I forget what the lawyers are calling it, but they're calling it a landmark case. And so we're working from the top down and the bottom up. And I told the people in my speech today, I said, we have the greatest plan. I said, God gave us grace. I said, and for such a time as this, I said that back at the White House a couple of years ago. And everybody comes up to me and says, well, this doesn't feel like grace, Mike. And I said, you know what? We have all the tools to secure our elections and save our country. This time period, and if we didn't have anything, if we didn't have any of these tools, yeah, I'd be very worried. We'd all just be praying that our country gets saved. But now we have the tools. We can all get involved with this plan, and it's going to work. And I'm just really excited. I've been excited all day down here, talking to a lot of media, a lot of people, we hope that the GOP now, that some of these 168 that watched our presentation, we hope that they go back to their constituents in 2 days and say, hey, instead of blocking Mike Lindell and all his people that come through and the grassroots and we have over 300,000 people in every single county in the country and every single state. And I told them all, I said, you guys don't block us anymore. Embrace us. Embrace us. We all need to work together. And I think I said that on Steve Bannon's show, and he said, well, good luck with that, Mike. And I'm going, you know what? All things are possible. And we really need
all things are possible, but
right.
All things are possible, as you say, Mike, but that's a tough one. And Ronna McDaniel, the RNC, do you think she's going to fall in line, or is she going to fall out of the chairmanship?
That I don't know. I'm going to be here for a couple more days, but I will say this is one of the things that I told the RNC, the ones that were here. Remember, Lou, in August, they voted in a resolution, 168 to 0, to get rid of the machines, go to paper ballots hand counted, go to same day voting, and all these things that was in that resolution. I said, you guys, since August, you guys are blocking it. You haven't embraced even your own resolution. So, and that all comes from the top, from who? Ronna McDaniel. So, whatever happens there, I can only do what we're doing with our plan. And we really need we need those 168 to embrace us, because you know what? The track's getting thinner. We've got about 10 months left, or not, and we've got to secure our elections, and we got to do it now.
Let me ask you, as we wrap this up, we're looking at a trial in the Curling versus Raffensperger that is underway in Atlanta, Georgia, in the federal courthouse. Judge Amy Totenberg. This case is now in its 7th year, and people don't realize this. This case about whether or not electronic voting machines are reliable, whether they're vulnerable, whether we're exposed to more problems. And that trial has already made clear, because of the experts that they brought in, that those voting machines are absolutely vulnerable. And they've suppressed this thing for now 7 years. It's great that it's coming out now, but people need to understand this is the level. The report by Professor Alex Halderman was kept under wraps for about 2 years before we even got to this stage. And Raffensperger, the Secretary of State, the case is, after all, Curling versus Raffensperger, the Secretary of State of Georgia, an appellate court ruled that he doesn't have to show up in his own trial. It's outrageous what's happening, even as sunlight seems to be entering the reality of what these electronic voting machines amount to.
That's exactly right, Louis. And remember, we waited the last couple of years for that Haldeman report. I was at many different hearings across the country where I was in Louisiana at a hearing, and they couldn't get, the own Secretary of State there couldn't get the Haldeman report. That's how much Raffensperger kept it down. I believe the government kept it from everybody. And now, and remember, everybody, this was started, the original plaintiffs were Democrats. I've been saying this all along. These election platforms, it doesn't matter if you're Democrat, Republican, we've got to get rid of these machines. And this is, it's great that it's finally coming out now. Now everyone says, boy, it would have been great if it came out before 2020. It's all got to unfold, everybody, in the right timing and God's timing. We've learned so much from between 2020 and now that we wouldn't have learned if this would have been, done then. They would have just said, you know what they'd have said then, Lou? Well, these machines over here, we just got to get more secure machines. Now we know it doesn't matter the brand. It doesn't matter what the computer. They all got to go. We got to melt them all down and turn them into prison bars, and we got to do it now.
Mike Lindell. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. Mike, have a good meeting down there in Las Vegas with the Turning Point USA and the RNC. That's going to be quite a meeting. Mike Lindell, folks. Coming up next, Joe Biden is struggling to sell his Bidenomics campaign message. I wonder why. The American people are smart enough to know when the economy is stagnant and they're in pain, and when deficits and debt are crushing Americans' future. That's up here next.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and I'm here to tell you about my new product from MyPillow, towels that actually work. Watch this absorbency test. Here's another towel that we randomly went out and bought. Here's one of my towels with the nice design. I don't know if you can see this, but you could line a swimming pool with this. I mean, this is crazy. Get rid of it. Towels that actually work. What a concept. I'm interrupting this commercial to let you know you can get our 6-piece My Towels, regular $69.98, now only $29.98. Or you can save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels, made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Also, we have bath sheets, bath towels, washcloths, hand towels, and so much more. And the best part, with your promo code, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all My Towels. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
It's the economy, stupid. One of the most successful political phrasings in modern presidential campaign history. You've probably heard it a lot before. The phrase was coined by Bill Clinton's former chief strategist, James Carville, and it still rings true, doesn't it? Well, Carville's point was that the economy is the focus of nearly every presidential campaign. The economy is what voters care about first and foremost. What Carville didn't intend for, however, is for incumbents who are bragging about the economy, running on the economy, when the economy that they've been managing is stagnant and unstable. Bragging about a weak economy, a painful economy, is much harder, of course, to message and to sell. You can't claim the economy is better than ever before when the American people are feeling that pain in their wallets and household budgets. Well, are the American people smart enough to know when they're being crushed financially? Well, the exact strategy Joe Biden has been trying to use to stay in the White House. He calls it Bidenomics, and he says it's just lovely. He talked about his economic plan in Wisconsin last week. Here he is.
Just last week, we saw the biggest jump in 30 years in how positive consumers are feeling about the economy. Things are finally beginning to sink in. We passed a lot of really good legislation. We knew it was going to take time for it to begin to take hold, but it's taken hold now and turning the economy around. We also just learned that America filed 16 million new business applications since I become president. That's a record. That's a record.
Well, it's maybe a record in his mind, but it is not in anyone else's mind, which is why the strategy isn't working, of course. According to the latest survey from Pew Research, only 28% of Americans say this economy is good or excellent. Not even a majority of Democrats surveyed had a positive view of the state of our economy. That's why the White House announced today it's changing strategies. Aren't you excited? I know I am. Instead of focusing on Bidenomics, their new message is to focus on, guess what? Donald Trump's economic agenda. Here's how the Trump campaign responded today.
Everywhere you look, Trump beats Biden on the economy. Take-home pay, up $6,000 under Trump. Under Biden, down $7,000. Mortgage rates, low under Trump. Punishing under Biden. Personal and retirement investments, up 40% under Trump. Under Biden, your investments fell, along with other things. Trump, he'll make America's economy great again.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
There is no comparison, of course, as we all know. We're also seeing Biden unleash his allies in the Marxist corporate media to patronize Americans for not giving him credit on the economy. Shame on you.
The real story about the U.S. economy. Nobel Prize winner Paul Krugman lays out the dollars and cents for why Americans are wrong to feel so down about it.
How's the economy doing?
Well, there's the difference between how it looks and how it feels.
Right.
Actually, the economy's doing okay right now.
If you actually take a step back, the U.S. economy is strong.
The economy, by all objective measures, is doing pretty damn well.
Americans don't seem to be giving him the credit. Why is that, and what does he have to do to turn that around?
If people aren't paying attention to it, then it's very hard to go out and take credit.
Voters don't understand essentially or grasp that he's had these legislative wins.
Most voters don't understand what you're trying to tell them.
Are we going to get to the point
where facts do not matter. And for the economy example, people are going to feel the way that aligns with their political party.
Well, in other words, they think you are too stupid to understand. You and I are the problem because we're not paying attention to their splendid economy, even though 70% of those surveyed say that they're living paycheck to paycheck, those folks who are employed. They want you to be thrilled that inflation and gas prices have dipped slightly, even though prices remain significantly higher than under President Trump. They want you to be happy that the S&P 500 is at a record high, even though millions of Americans can't afford a mortgage or to invest in the stock market. Joining me now is economist Art Laffer. He helped usher in Reaganomics in the 1980s. He joins us now. I'm looking forward to this conversation. I've been looking forward to it for quite some time as we've watched this administration. 3 years of absolute, surefire, disastrous economic policy. We're here at $34 trillion in national debt. We're at running right now $2 trillion deficits, sure to go higher, and spending just about $1 trillion a year to service the debt. And Joe Biden and all of his folks are walking around saying Bidenomics really works. Your reaction?
Well, I don't think it really does, Lou, as you might guess. I don't think we've done very well here. We had that inflation, and we still haven't caught up to the pre-Trump level of growth in real GDP. And, you know, people don't look at inflation. They look at prices, and prices are much, much higher than when Biden took office. And jobs, you know, the employment rate is really low. Now, the unemployment rate is also very low. That's true. But that's because so many people have left the labor force. And, you know, it just doesn't work here. And just as a very simple overview, if you tax people who work and you pay people who don't work, do not be surprised if you find you have a lot of people not working. And that is exactly what's happening in this administration, in this economy. And it's very dangerous because with all of the challenges in the world, we need a good, strong, sound government, and we just don't have it. And raising tax rates is not going to give it to us.
Well, and then there is the matter of simply, straightforwardly, an economy in which everyone is discontented and many people desperate. As we look at these polls, we're talking about 60% of households saying they're living from paycheck to paycheck. 60% of them. I don't recall it being that high, certainly in the last 30 years. That is a troubling statistic to me. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you're completely correct. I mean, it is troubling. They should have assets. Those assets should be very good for them. Their pay should have increased substantially more than it did in the last year or 2 years of Trump before the pandemic. Real wages, median real wages went way up, and they are not doing that now. In fact, they've come down quite substantially under Biden. But, you know, the point here is 60% of those people who work are living from paycheck to paycheck. What you've also got to realize is there are a lot of people who are not in the labor force, and they're living from welfare check to welfare check. And this is not the way an economy is supposed to run. Welfare checks are supposed to be the exception, not the rule. And paychecks are supposed to cover much more than just your subsistence living. They're supposed to cover new investments in education and all sorts of other things that they're just not doing. So this economy is not working well for Americans at present. And I just hope the next election will give us a change in governance and allow us to be much more successful in the future.
Yeah, I join you in that hope, as I know tens of millions of us do. But when you were talking about low unemployment, looking at the most recent numbers, there's something insidious happening in this labor market. And that is that more people than ever are employed by government, whether it's state, local, or federal. But it is a rampant trend that is going on in which you're watching employment in government agencies in the public sector rising across all types of jobs. And while at the same time, we're seeing very little job creation in the private sector, as you said. And that is not a good sign for the future. It's a terrible sign for what's happening in the private sector, whether it be entrepreneurs, small business people, or whether it be wage earners. There's something very troubling going on in this economy that's not getting the attention, certainly of Wall Street economists, the corporatist, if you will, nor obviously the academic and government economists. Your thinking?
Yeah, my view is that government should be the employer of last resort if there are government jobs there. They shouldn't be taking jobs away from the private sector and to be employed in the public sector. They should, if people can't find a job there as an employer of last resort, it really makes sense to have the government there. But that's not what's happening with the government right now. It is competing with the private sector and paying much higher wages because they don't have a productivity. They don't have a budget constraint. They don't have shareholders. They don't have anyone who's incentivized to use labor efficiently and reduce costs thereby. So, whether you're looking at all the people who've taken out of the labor force because of welfare, because of transfer payments, all of those, which is huge. The labor force has dropped dramatically, but also it's stolen jobs from the private sector, which is exactly what you just said. And government pay on these jobs is not commensurate with their productivity. They really look at pay based upon your age, your gender, your color, your all these other things, rather than on your productivity. And it's really important to get back to merit pay, where people are paid based upon what they do and how much they produce, rather than what brand of the government they're employed in.
And a programming note, please join us 7 days a week, each and every day, for my podcast, The Great America Show, available at LouDobbs.com, Apple Podcasts, iHeart, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for being with us, and join us tomorrow, 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 Central. The Lindell Report is next, and of course, you never want to miss it. Good night, and God bless.
You're watching Lindell TV.
Looks like you've been sleeping well.
Megan, he's back.